Hey, coaches, welcome to Championship Culture. We got a fantastic guest tonight. Patrick Taylor is the former head football coach at North Surrey High School in North Carolina. He was at North Surrey for 12 years, head coach for 3 years. And most of you know Patrick. He is widely regarded as one of the elite offensive minds, air raid minds in our state and probably in the whole country. He's a Mike Leach disciple. Been on many YouTube channels and spoke at many clinics because of his expertise, especially in the vertical game. But today we want to talk about culture, and we want to talk about, not everyone knows, they know he's a great offensive mind, but they didn't know he's a great head football coach also. And we really wanted to talk about program building and culture today. So Patrick, thank you so much for being on here tonight, buddy.
I appreciate it, man. It's an honor to be on here and talk to you. I know you're a fellow air raid guy, and we were just talking previously. Both of us have spent time in Georgia and now back in North Carolina, and found out that you actually coached against me as a player. That's kind of a small world we're all in.
We did just figure that out, that Patrick was a player. That tells you how old I am. Patrick was a player when I was coaching my very first high school as a head coach. It was my very first game as the head coach, and we played his team from Macon. Didn't realize Patrick and his wife are both from Macon, and my girls were both born in Macon. So it is a small world. And but thank you so much for being on here, buddy. And let's jump into it. So question number one: can you give a 1-minute elevator introduction of yourself?
Yeah, my name's Patrick Taylor. I'm originally from Middle Georgia, and I started my coaching career there and moved to North Carolina 14 years ago, and spent 2 years at North Wilkes High School, and then the last 12 at North Surrey as a defensive and offensive coordinator, and as head coach for the past 3 years. And it's been a fun career. You know, I've got to meet, you said I went out and spent three days with Coach Leach, and both of us have met Coach Mummy and been around the offense and been around programs. And you know, at the end of the day, I've worked with some great kids and some great assistant coaches that's worked with me. And I never say for me, but, worked under me. And, to be able to see them grow and reach their dreams and stuff like that is kind of what this is all about. And, I've had a good run and very, very lucky of the things we've been able to do.
And you have had a great run, and got many more in front of you. So let's start honing in, because I'm really interested. I've heard you speak so many. I used to always say you were so smart that I couldn't keep up with you. That you really are just an elite, high level guy. Especially, I love when you start talking forwards and offense. But you're also an elite head football coach. So question number 2 is, how do you find culture in your program?
I think it starts, and I would give anybody this advice: when you become a head football coach, you also have to understand that it no longer is really about you. And the fact of the matter is that you have to start finding out a lot about the history of the program you're coaching, the good and the areas you need to work in. I never say bad, but the areas you need to improve in. You also need to learn a lot about the kids. What are their backgrounds? What are the, just the relationship building part of it is going to create that type of culture. But at the end of the day, after you learn all this stuff and you create all of these directions that you need to go with the program, I do think at the end of the day, everybody wants structure and everybody wants discipline, and they want to be a part of something that does have a direction. And so with that being the case, you want to get some community involvement. You want to get involvement through your little leagues. That's something that I've done. It opened up my offices and opened up my my practice fields and stuff to my little league team that's coming in, because they are your lifeline, and building that trust with those guys, and opening the doors for any questions they have or any way you can facilitate them helps a great deal. So I think when you talk about the culture, you have to really get, from the community to the players to the hallways of teachers involved in what you're doing. One of the guys that I look after, and kind of pulled me aside as a young coach, Richard Hodges. He coached at Chris County, Georgia, and he finished his career up there at Warner Robins when they won a state title there in the mid 2000s. And he said, the hallways with the teachers and the administration can make or break your culture and the success of what you're going to do. And you can only take it so far if they're not all on board with what you're doing. And so that's kind of one of the things I try to establish a great rapport with my administration and with the teachers in the hallways. The teachers know you got their back, and they see the kids are excelling in the classroom and on the field. I think at the end of the day, that helps create a big and helps define your culture.
That's awesome, man. I love the part about the hallways, and that was a kick in the tail for me to do a better job in the hallways with the teachers. I used to always say, humans just have it in them that they want to be a part of something bigger than themselves, but they also want to stand out. And I think football is kind of uniquely situated and suited for that, that we kind of feed both ends of that spectrum. So great job there. Question number 3, and this is the big one, man. This is the one we want to steal more than your vertical game. What are the 3 best things you do to build culture in your program?
I think that you have to give players ownership, whether that's if you're creating some type of leadership school, or you're having leadership classes, creating captains. One of the things I did when I took over at North Surrey is I sat down with my seniors, and we had a roundtable meeting, and I said, what do you like and dislike about this program? Honest, we can be 100% honest in here. And and that kind of gave me an insight of what the players saw versus what coaches saw versus and how we could kind of find the way to create a smaller deficit between what they wanted and versus what we wanted, and be able to put that into one common goal. So I like giving players ownership. I do like giving them leadership, but I think you also have to foster that leadership into the team goal. Another thing that we have done in the past is when I was in Georgia, we had quite a few seniors that I really leaned on in 2007 and 8 that had really been there for 4 years and put the blood, sweat, and tears into it. And I created teams that they checked on each other. So there again, if a kid wasn't going to come to practice, a younger kid or something like that, they would report to me and tell me, and then I would handle it as a head coach to help it. But I think it meant more coming from player to player than always hearing it from the head coach or the assistant coach or whatnot, that if they care about what they're doing in the direction you're going to go a whole lot further. I do think it is. You can put rules on a wall and you can put rules in a page and everything else, but at the end of the day, if the guys aren't bought into the culture that you're displaying and they don't have some type of ownership in it, it's only going to go so far. And then probably, the last thing I do is I try to serve them. I try to market as a servant leader, take care of as we do with take care of laundry and stuff like that. But getting to know them off the field, I've always said this, our players have needs outside of that helmet and that shoulder pads and those lights on Friday night. Sometimes it's nutritional needs. Sometimes it's father figure needs. Sometimes it's that kind of thing. So developing those relationships and being able to meet those needs outside of the confines of that coaching office and that gridiron, I think really helps instill the culture and helps. I'm big on serving the guy next to you and playing for the guy next to you and everything else. And if as coaches you model that, I think that if you're modeling that, then at the end of the day, my big thing was always unity over self. Make a decision for the best or the greater the good versus what's selfishly better than you for you. And so if I'm constantly as the head coach or as a coordinator or whatnot, if I'm reaching down and doing something that maybe some people might see that, well, that's the trainer's job or that's this job. No, it's everybody's job to keep this thing going forward, and nobody's too big to do anything. And I think that's one way of modeling that servant leadership that you want, that mindset of stopping somebody on 4th and 1 or making that big play to win the game. I think that's one of the big things that you can do to develop culture.
I love it, man. You're the second guy in about 3 weeks that's really brought this concept of serving your players to the forefront. And I really love it, and it's really preaching to me. You know, something I need to be hearing is you know, when you view the kids that way, that it's our job to serve them and to help them. It really changes the dynamics out there and changes. I don't know, changes my heart when I think about it that way. So that's really something I appreciate you talking about it, because that's really something that I need to be adding to how I think about things. So great job on that. Question number 4. You've been in it a while, man. You're not a rookie guy anymore in Georgia. You're the veteran guy now. What do you know now that you wish you knew when you first got started?
I think every coach when they first start out, they feel the pressures of looking at 300 wins, and this coach is a Hall of Fame, and everybody has these lofty goals as becoming a head coach. I mean, you'd be crazy not to think, well, I'd like to have a stadium named after me or something like that. I mean, everybody has these lofty goals when you're sitting there and your head's spinning at night and you're staring at the ceiling. I will tell you this. The relationships that you create with players over the years are more important than the wins and the losses you're going to have at the end of your career. I've been fortunate enough to be a groomsman in one of my former players' weddings. I get calls when they're having their first baby. When they're getting married, you get to go to their weddings. They pop back in the office and I think that's one of the things that I wished I would have known earlier with some of my younger players earlier in my career, that it's really the wins and losses are going to come as a result of those relationships that you forge. You can only, I relate it to any kind of animal that you're close to. If that animal loves you, he's going to do more for you, whether it's a horse. If you've never been on the horse and it doesn't know you, well, it's not going to be as inclined to do exactly what you tell it to do. But if you have a closer relationship with it and it trusts you and it understands you, then it's going to be a little different. And probably the other thing that I think all of us coaches deal with is, I had 2 young girls, so I didn't have a boy to coach or anything else. And I will say this for young coaches, especially young head football coaches. My daughters are now a senior in college and I have a sophomore in college. And I'll say this: take time away with your family, because the years go by really, really, really fast. And you'll look up one day and they'll be grown. And so, yes, we first got into football. It was kind of an 8-month job in a way, and you worked out through the wintertime. You had spring practice, but now it's a 12-month job. And it's a 12-month job, and it's a lot more it entails. We're no longer sending out VHS tapes and DVDs. You got to get stuff sent out right now, and recruiting's changed. I know that, coach, and everything else, but you still have to find a way to step away and be who you need to be to your wife, your spouse, your kids, and everything else. It's okay to see a volleyball game or to go watch a dance recital or something like that. I promise you, you'll regret it in the long run if you hadn't. So I think, looking back at the young coach Taylor, that those are 2 points that I would say, man, I wish I'd have done that differently, or I wish I'd have known that. Somebody to pull me to the side and said, look, this is how it's going to be 20 years from now. Make sure that you kind of check these boxes.
That's awesome, man. And that you're talking to a father of 2 girls also. So I tell people I've seen more horse movies and princess movies and dance recitals and Taylor Swift concerts. I've seen enough to kill most men. So
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And I always thought it helped my coaching that my girls softened me a little bit. That I probably would have been a lot rougher on them poor guys if I hadn't had them girls at home that softened me up. I remember, and I'm trying to remember his name. Was it Coach Kynes that was at UGA as the D coordinator years ago?
Yes.
And I remember him speaking at a clinic one time, at their clinic, at the UGA clinic. And he told a story about when he dropped his little girl off her first day of kindergarten. and he walked her in and left her there, and said the very next day she graduated from high school. And then the very next day after that, she graduated from college. And the day after that, she was getting married. And he said it happened so fast, it almost made his head spin. And he said he spent that time, that time between when she got engaged and when she got married, he said he bothered her to death because he wanted to be with her every single second to try to catch up some of that time that he had missed being a football coach. So I just think, young guys won't understand that at all. But as you get older and your kids get older, man, that's the most important part of life, and you don't want to miss it. So you nailed that one too, Coach. I'm glad we got on this. You've been nailing it. All right, number 5. Are you on Twitter? I think you're on.
Yeah.
Twitter. Can you give your Twitter handle? Do you remember it?
My Twitter handle, my main one is at Patrick_Taylor4. And I have another one that's call 6 to score, and I'm sorry, just call 6. And you can look up both of those. And of course, 6 has to do with the 4 verticals, but at Patrick_Taylor4 is my main one. And I've just had it forever, but I post some of the 4 vertical stuff on the other one from time to time. But that's kind of,
I'll link both of them in the show notes so that people can get up with you. And then is anything else you want to promote, anything you want to talk about? You got the last word, Coach.
No, if you have any questions or need anything or anything else, don't hesitate to reach out. Just reach out to me, and we will and we'll do as much as we can to help you in any way I can, give you kind of any advice or anything that I possibly can. If not, I'll point you to people that can answer the question better than I can.
Well, again, man, I appreciate you being on here. You hit a home run. I know everyone knows, what an offensive innovator and offensive mind you are, but it's good to hear kind of how you visualize and how you create your program when you're the head coach. And you've always done a great job. And I'm looking forward to seeing where you're at next time, because I know you're going to do a great job there also, buddy. I
appreciate you, Coach. I really do appreciate you having me on, and like to get back together with you soon, man, and sit there and talk some ball.
I'd love to, man. I got to learn that vertical game from you, man. Thanks, buddy.
It's not hard.
Appreciate you.